My name is Peter Provost. I was born in Malone, New York on September 8, 1863. My parents were French-Canadian. I was educated at the Belmont Academy in Montreal and finished my time as a brass finisher, before getting on the fire department. I joined the Montreal Fire Department on June 1, 1882 and 6 years later was appointed foreman of the No. 4 Salvage Corps. In September of 1890 I was promoted to captain of No. 4 Station. This station is the largest where there were 21 men under me. I recalled one evening when I was captain of the Sheboyly Square Fire Station in Montreal. It was Monday, February 20, 1893. A 6-story building was in flames and I was on the topmost floor. Smoke had enveloped around me and it was too much for me to try to retrace my steps. All means of exit were cut off by the dense smoke and heat. The only possible escape was by the windows. Volumes of smoke continued to pour out of the window that I was at. Finally I was seen through the dense smoke. I continued to shout in French, calling out to my men. The ladder was raised, but a wire caught it and it had to be lowered. At last the ladder was put up against the wall, but it was short by about 25 feet. As the wind separated the smoke, I was able to see the ladder as I stood at the window with my hands on the sill. I yelled to my men from above, telling them I didn't want to die like this. My men continued to get me out of the building when I jumped and ended up on the ground, knowing I was at death's door. My right knee was badly cut that it necessitated 9 stitches. My face was cut in several places and my left thigh was badly bruised. I was confined to bed for 9 months. I want to take a moment and share with you an interesting call myself and my men attended one February morning. It was February 20, 1885 at 5 in the morning when a fire broke out at 1995 Notre Dame Street. The home belonged to Madame Racicot, who had passed away. It just so happened that her wake was taking place at her residence. The unfortunate lady who kept a boarding house died on Wednesday, and to conform with the usual custom prevailing among many Irish and French families, they assembled last evening at her residence to sit up all night and recite frequent intervals of prayers for the dead. There were upwards of 15 or 20 persons present, including her boarders. All went well until the late hours, when the majority retired. With many boarders and family members dispersed, 3 members decided to stay up, seating themselves by a large stove in a passage by the second flat, where they then fell asleep. The area where they had fallen asleep was a few feet away from where Madame Racicot was laid to rest in her casket. The 4 walls were securely and effectively draped by means of white sheets, while lit candles stood on a table near the door. How long the household had been asleep is unknown. About 5:15 a butcher named Mr. Masterman was driving along the street when he saw flames pouring from the upper windows of the home. Once the alarm was turned in, we were there within 2 minutes and soon we had water pouring onto the building. We gained entrance through stairwell to the second flat. Myself and 2 other firemen that were with me, continued to search through the darkness. Fireman Dubois, of No. 4 Station, was successful in finding the servant girl lying behind the door of her bedroom on the 3rd flat. Dubois grabbed her in his arms and carried her down 2 flights of stairs. She was transported to the Notre Dame Hospital. Meanwhile, up on the 3rd flat the search continued. With torch in hand, door after door was knocked in by the firemen. The smoke we encountered was unbearable. When all was done there were no fatalities, many rescued were taken to the hospital. When the flames had been extinguished we entered the room where the body of Madame Racicot had been laid out. A scene of destruction met our gaze. The floor and walls were burnt and blackened, while lying in a heap of smoldering wood, all that was left of the coffin, was the deceased lady burned to a charred mass. At 7 in the morning, the hour set for the funeral, the undertaker appeared at the home with a hearse. Shocked to find all that remained were the cremated remains of Madame Racicot. Many lives were saved that early morning. I was honored with a medal that I received for the work I did that evening in helping save so many from a tragic ending. There were many turning points within my career. In 1895 I was asked to travel down to St. John, New Brunswick. I was asked to help reorganize their fire department. The city was so impressed with my work and achievements that they offered me the position as chief, an offer I declined and chose to return to Montreal. February 11, 1897 was one of the days I will never forget. The Ottawa Fire Department responded to a fire at the west block of the Parliament buildings. Ottawa's men were so stretched that they called upon Montreal to send some help. We sent one steamer and 15 men, including myself who was in charge of the men. On February 18, a week after the West Block fire, a City of Ottawa alderman was sent to Montreal to have a meeting with me. The committee back in Ottawa was looking at a new chief of the fire department and I was offered the position. In February of 1897 I was sent a letter for an offer to consider from the City of Ottawa and Alderman, Fred Cook, which read: Dear Sir, Alderman White, the chairman of the fire committee, has reported to us about his visit to Montreal yesterday and the talk he had with you. Those of us who had the pleasure of meeting you last week found a very favorable opinion of your capabilities, and from present appearances, I think I say to you, in strict confidence that you are on the fair way to seeing to a position of chief of our brigade. The offer letter went on to offer myself a salary of $1,600 and a home to settle in. I looked over the offer and formulated a response. It read:
Letter dated February 26th, and I have since been considering your offer to me as Chief of Ottawa Fire Department. I will accept the position you offer me at $1,600 a year. Your city to find me house, fuel, light, and water, horse and rig and man to look after it as our chief and sub-chiefs have here, with full control of department, for engaging and dismissing of men and my recommendations to fire committee for promotion or privateur to officers. I should like to tell you a delegation of captains, including myself, waited upon our chief this AM for more wages, and it looks very good for 200 more a year. For us about these questions, my name is Peter Provost. Was born in Malone, New York on September 8, 1863. Was educated at Belmont Academy, Montreal, served and finished my time as brass finisher, joined Fire Department June 1, 1882, was appointed foreman of No. 4 Salvage Corps, 16th of November, 1888, and was then promoted as captain on September 25th, 1890, which position I still hold. My father and mother are both French Canadians. I am married. My wife is English speaking. She was born in New York City. I also send my photo as you desired me, so now I will conclude, and I promise if you, your goodwill, see fit to appoint me as chief of your department, I will do my utmost to fill the position with satisfaction to you and credit to myself. More references be required concerning my character or ability. Please refer to Alderman Stevenson, Chairman of Fire Committee, or the Chief of the Fire Department. I beg to remain very respectfully, P. Provost.
When I arrived in Ottawa to settle in as the new chief, the previous chief, Chief William Young, was given a retirement package of 1 year's salary, which would have paid him up to the age of 60. Chief Young served 25 years as chief. His total years of service added to 37. Many changes needed to take place, and it seems that very little was being done with the old administration. My first year I ensured that 17 new fire alarms were installed across the city and the water supply to the Parliament buildings was increased. Over the next 2 years, new stations were added and 2 new hose wagons were acquired. 2,000 additional feet of hose were purchased as well. I launched a city-wide inspection of all fire hydrants as well. The Great Fire of 1900 caught many of us off guard. Although it was only a matter of time before a large fire was going to occur. It was shortly after 10 a.m. on the 26th of April when we received an alarm for a chimney fire. The Hull Fire Department put in a call for assistance from Ottawa. By noon things were getting desperate. In less than 2 hours the fire had destroyed all the buildings along the Chaudière, and the streets of Wright, Church, DuPont, Principal, Wellington, and Duke. The decision was made to bring in the steam engines, one from Eddy's Mill and the other, the mighty Conqueror. This proved to be too late and we ended up losing the Conqueror to the fire. When the fire crossed the river, my men were waiting with the steamer. Like soldiers ordered to hold the line. The line was impossible to hold. Fire swept through the Chaudière industrial district so quickly the men turned and ran. The Conqueror's chief engineer, John Long, was not fast enough and he found himself surrounded by flames. John escaped by jumping into the river and swimming to safety. When the sun rose the next day it was evident the devastation and destruction that Ottawa and Hull had been through. We lost 8 souls that day. My time as chief had some personal tragedy as well. My wife and I saw the death of my namesake, my son Peter. Peter was only 4 years old when he died on June 23, 1899. A very devastating time for both of us. My father passed away in Montreal at the age of 89 years. He was well known throughout the Montreal area and was well liked by many. My wife, Henrietta, and I have 4 handsome sons and 2 beautiful daughters. My health started to decline in 1907. My wife and I wanted to take a trip to Bermuda, but my health didn't allow this. At the age of 45, my health declined.
Hi, I'm Peter Provost. My father was the 3rd chief of the Ottawa Fire Department. My father was well liked in his role as fire chief in Ottawa. I remember the day my father passed away. It was December 6, 1909. My father was injured 2 years earlier at the Rideau Rink fire and had suffered from internal injuries. He was granted special leave in hope of returning to good health. He awoke one morning and said, "I am finished," and died. My father was laid to rest at Notre Dame Cemetery in Ottawa. The funeral was one of the largest seen in the capital for some time. My brother Charles and myself follow in our father's footsteps. Charles was hired in 1911 and I was hired in 1915. What an honor to follow in the footsteps of Chief Peter Provost. My father worked for change in the department and made it happen. Certainly his fire boots will be hard to fill. I and my brother will make him proud. May his legacy live on and never be forgotten.